Welcome to IDeA video number 7. Today we're going to talk about recycling. No, not that type of recycling. We're going to talk about recycling IDeA projects. Now, what does that mean? I want you to imagine that a few years ago you wanted to do deep analysis of a chess opening. You spent hours adding tasks to your IDeA project. Maybe, for example, you found one of your favorite opening books from the 1980s. And let's say that you were studying something like the Latvian Gambit, and you wanted to look in your old opening book to see what it said, and you remembered that it made some outrageous claims that were probably outdated and untrue. But nevertheless, you noticed that the claims were so strong that you just had to see if they were true. For example, like this one. If white puts a foot wrong, he can easily find himself being battered to a premature death, but by sticking to a straight and narrow path constructed by Cares, he can be certain of turning the melee to his advantage and emerging with a winning position. If only it was so simple. But you need to know whether that old analysis is true. So you spent hours adding it into your IDeA project manually, one move at a time with the mouse. Took you absolutely ages. But now years have passed and new software has come out, and maybe also you've got new and better hardware. What do you do? Well, one thing you could do is just bin your IDeA project and throw the whole thing away and start over again. But I would encourage you not to throw it in the bin, but instead to recycle. There are two main reasons for recycling your old IDeA projects if they're on something like the opening, which you want to come back to. The first is, if you have better hardware or more hardware than you used to have, you could reanalyze your project, even if you used exactly the same engine to do it with, but at a longer amount of time per position, which would mean that the software would search more deeply, which would mean a higher ELO, effectively, a higher quality of analysis. And this means the analysis you would get would simply be better and more worthwhile. Now, this is something we simply must do a video about sooner or later, because IDeA has the wonderful ability to exploit not just the PC it's running on, but also a whole variety of other computers that it might be networked to. You can, for example, accumulate a vast array of hardware in your home and turn it into a supercomputer by networking it together, and it's not that hard and it's very, very effective. The other reason is you might have better software, and this is definitely the case if it's been a few years since your last IDeA project was made. Software is improving at the rate of about 50 ELO points per year, which means that if you did, for example, an IDeA project 6 years ago, the software back then would be about 300 ELO points weaker than it is today. That is a staggering difference. That's the difference between Magnus Carlsen and a regular Grandmaster. So it's definitely worth reanalyzing some of these old projects. Now, how do you do it? Well, as always, we want to open up Aquarium. So let me just do that. And I'll find a project I want to reanalyze. Here is the Benko Gambit, analyzed with Komodo 9.1. I always put the name in brackets after the project. I find that is very, very helpful. And you can see at the bottom right, this has got 160, 170,000 positions in it, many of which were created by analyzing databases, but also some I did manually enter, and I definitely don't want to manually re-enter this project. So here is one that I would just like to recycle. How do you do it? Well, you go to this menu and you create a brand new blank project. So here I have Benko Komodo 10.3, which is the latest version at time of writing. I'm going to set up the correct starting position. Yeah, I don't know how deep I'll go. I'll keep it fairly near the beginning of the gambit. It gives me more flexibility that way. That'll do. It is white's turn, move 3. Yep, that looks right. Okay. Just check my settings. Well, I always do it to this, giving up to 10 minutes per position, but it depends how much hardware you've got and how long you can afford to do it for. That looks right. That I'll come back to. That's fine. Yep. Okay. Alright, so I've got my new blank project there. It's an empty project with absolutely nothing in it. And if I double click there, you can see there's no positions in it at all. Okay, how do we get the old project into the new project? Well, what you do is go to the top of the screen, and we're going to use an external program. We go to External Programs, Tree Utilities, click on that. That brings up a dialog box. Then we're going to go to EPD on the left, click Export EPD, and in the top line you want to find the AQT file of the old project. Mine's always in the default folder, so that's pretty easy. You scroll down until you find it, Benko 9.1 AQT, there it is. Double click on that. Then you want to export all those positions into an EPD file, so you just stick it anywhere. I'm going to stick mine into a folder called temp dump. I'm going to call it Benko 9.1 because that was the old project. Yep, EPD, that looks right. Click on it. And then we want to click on Run Operation. That might take a while depending on how big the project is. You'll notice that it's done it, and the number of positions there is slightly different to the number of positions in the original project. Do not be upset by that. Do not be alarmed. That is quite normal. It could be that you've just got duplicate positions for all sorts of reasons, but nothing has been lost, I promise. Then you go into your new project and you go to Add Tasks. You find the EPD file, double click on it. At this point you really will have to be patient. If it's a large number of positions, it might take anything up to a couple of minutes, but you just sit patiently and wait, and it will add all of those tasks, all of those positions from the old project into a queue to be reanalyzed into your new project. So what this gives you is all of the old positions in your old project that you worked so hard to discover, be it by loading up databases to analyze them, or scanning through old books and old games that you found in a newspaper or whatever it was. All of those old positions get added into the queue into your new project to be analyzed from scratch. And what that means, of course, is that none of the old evaluations from the old engine are carried over to the new project. Only the positions come forward, none of the other stuff. So you're starting a clean new project, but you don't have to do the hard labour of discovering all of the old positions that you worked so hard to discover first time round. Personally, I think this is an extremely powerful tool because it means that nothing goes out of date. It means that you can work as hard as you like on an IDeA project if you know you're going to come back to the project in future years, and that's particularly relevant if you ever study the opening. You can just recycle, recycle, recycle. You can grow your project from year to year to year, and each time you can bump it up with better software, better hardware, and so on. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Do come back next time, and remember, don't throw your old IDeA projects away. Instead, recycle them.